Shalom, Kol Halayim, La Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakaha Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. Shalom to you fellow laborers out there doing the work in truth and in sincerity, especially during these times. Shalom also to the few Akwaf that believe as well. A hearty shalom to you other laborers and believers that are scattered throughout the face of the earth. Even if you're among the heathen and even like the heathen who are the speckled Israelites, to the household of faith, which is the elect, I want to say shalom to you. There is no peace to the wicked. And that's the name of this video. And I want to say, Lord, witness edifying. This is Isaiah 57. I'm going to go right to the point, verse 21. There is no peace, saith my power to the wicked. And when you go in the scriptures, who is the wicked? All right, Esau, Edom, the so-called or self-proclaimed white man. Okay, right to the point. Malachi 1:4. Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord of hosts. They shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord hath indignation. Forever. So the Edomites, man, they're the wicked in the earth, man. All right. The Lord giving the earth into the hand of the wicked, which is the Edomites, also the basis of men. All right, and we're at the end of their age. Okay, according to 2nd Esdras, the 6th chapter, it says Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it to follow it. So we're in a time where Esau's age is at its very end, and he's trying to cease from war. Because he, basically Trump, Nero Trump, he realized he in deep shit. And he don't have a strategy. Neither do he have a game plan. Their only game plan they had was to try to, overthrow the government or kill the leaders of the Persian people, which are the Iranians today. And thought that he could set up another puppet government, and that didn't work. So now, with everything going on, them continuing strikes on those so-called Israelis, and they're bombarding their cities with missile strikes. Almost every few hours, they get bombarded. Then you have it where American naval ships have been damaged, and reports of one being sank. I don't know how true that is. Can't verify that, so don't quote me on that. But it's been rumored, according to Iran, they have sinking one. But a thing that's really critical in this whole war is, or as we know, is the Straits of Hormuz, which has caused, it's caused a global, economic disruption. Okay. And so this is why Trump is trying to pull out and make a so-called peace deal. He's been basically just telling lies, saying that he's in talks with them, and they're not in talks. And the Iranian officials say they haven't spoken to the U.S. So who knows what's going on as far as that is concerned. As far as negotiating and all that. But one thing I've seen consistently was that Iranian leadership was denying talks as far as diplomacy, and they continue their strikes on U.S. Israeli territories and allies and assets. Okay, so it says, why did Trump call off strikes on Iranian energy? Well, when you go into the news, Iranian leadership said they would strike back at the Israeli energy sector, which they already hit. Dimona. All right, the nuclear sites in Dimona. Okay. The U.S. president is not just choosing between continuing the pressure or stopping the war. He is looking for a usable victory, right? Because one thing about America is it's not used to losing in this fashion. Okay, you got to where Vietnam, was the last notable time they was losing the war, and basically the other countries they went into for regime change, so-called regime change or intervention or invasion, they were able to topple the leaders, and that was that. Bear with me 1 second, Shalaki. Yeah, so Shalaki. Shalom. Y'all about to stop doing a video real quick. You can jump in if you want to. It says getting into the article, the military and political dynamic around Iran has entered a more dangerous phase, yet the diplomatic choreography now unfolding suggests that Washington is no longer thinking only in terms of punishment and pressure. Right, because the pressure is really on Babylon, because you have it where I like that though. You have it where the Straits of Hormuz being shut down. All right, is affecting Babylon's economy more than anything. Okay, this is why they're rushing to get away from the U.S. dollar, which is still the world reserve currency, but by the business deals being done in the Straits of Hormuz that Iran is allowing, they've been done through using the yuan and other currencies. So it puts pressure on the dollar even more to basically crash, but you can crash at any given moment, And then what? MOTB system, because everybody has a digital currency as far as all the nations, And that's ultimately what they want to do. Bring that digital system online where it can, administer the MOTB, and that'll be the new payment and way to perpetually enslaving everyone, Slovakia. So let's get this real quick, because remember that the bankers, they fund both sides of the war. Okay? They fund both sides of the war. This is Isaiah 29:15. Woe unto them that seek deep to hide their counsel from the Lord, and their works are in the dark, and they say, who seeth us and who knoweth us? See, the elites of the society, all right, the Chaldeans, all right, which are the Amalekites, it's the small head or tiny top people that's over in our land. They're the elites, man. All right, the Amalekites, they're the elites, man. They're the modern day Chaldeans, and their agenda, which you find on the back of the dollar bill, Novos Ordo Seclorum, which is New Order of Ages or New World Order. Then you have a Nua Coeptus, which is he favor our enterprise. You know what I'm saying? And their enterprise is to bring in this NWO, wherein they'll have everyone on that beast system via the chip, okay, or the neural link that goes into the head. See, and that's their wicked agenda. That's their counsel they have behind closed doors, where they're trying to find ways, okay, to administer it. Okay. So while we're watching this, continuance of strikes against, Iran, and Iran returning strikes to those Israelis and U.S. assets and allies, keep in mind that MOTB is on deck. But let's continue with the article. It says, did you have something to say? I want to jump in? Because it says, since March 20, the pattern has become unmistakable. The U.S. and Israel have continued to widen the scope of their campaign against Iranian strategic infrastructure, including nuclear facilities, while Iran has answered by pushing retaliation toward symbols of Israeli nuclear deterrence and by threatening a broader regional energy shock. Yeah, because this whole energy sector, global energy sector, is under pressure, man. Even because of the natural gas and oil that goes through the Straits of Hormuz, which it controls. Now they say it controls roughly 20% of the global supply, but how it looks is it controls more because the straits being closed to U.S. and its allies, all right, is causing more than a 20% damage. You look at the pump prices here. You know what I'm saying? They're what is 4 something a gallon? Cost what 4? Well, I left home this morning. It said what 4.14 a gallon. Which 144 call Allah Yabashim Al Shad. Another brother said he's seen it 444. So hey, we at the end, man. We at the end of Babylon the Great, man, and it's beautiful. We're seeing the fall of our enemies, and I'm very fucking happy. Let me get the precept real quick. Let me get that, because man, I'm very excited, man. Our enemies is falling, man. Well, our top enemy, because all the heathens are our enemies, but the top enemy of us is the Edomites, beginning with Amalek. So it says, Sirach 25:7. There be 9 things which I have judged in my heart to be happy, and the 10th I will utter with my tongue. A man that have joy of his children, and he that liveth to see the fall of his enemy. Okay? So, man, that's that's a joyful noise to our ears that, hope and wait on the mercy of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, man. And hope in the Lord's salvation, man, that he set up for, us to receive, as far as the elect, man. And I believe the elect have been sealed, but man, we're happy, man. Those of us that's given diligence to make our call and election sure, we're happy seeing these things take place, man. Because we're watching the prophecies unfold. All right, we constantly watching the news, and we're rejoicing in spirit, man. Because we know that our Redeemer is near, man. So, point is, Babylon is falling, and it's nothing that anyone can do, to stop this fall, because the Heavenly Father is the one that, again, determines the age or timeline of an age or empire, all right, that he sets up, all right, according to the people he wants to rule. And it just happened to be that the Edomites were set up to rule. All right, he gave the Edomites that position in the earth, where you're seeing the wicked coming back into power, and they're still in power right now, but the Lord is rapidly taking them out of power, all right, as we observe. All right, so the book of Ezekiel, chapter 7, and start at verse 5 and read down to verse 6. It says, "Thus said the Lord power, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, and evil, and only evil is, behold, it's come." Right, and that's what the world is getting ready to see. Okay, great evil. All right, on every side of it. Let's get that real quick, and I'm gonna come back there. The world is getting ready to see great evil, man. Okay, this is the book of, see here, 2nd Esdras 16. Going right to the point, verse 39. "Even so shall not the plagues be slack to come upon the earth, and the world shall mourn, and sorrow shall come upon it on every side." So yeah, man, the plagues, all right, they're going to bring great mourning and sorrows, all right, upon this earth, man. You're going to see a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth, man, in the coming times we're near, People are going to be out here losing it, man. Because why? Their whole life is going to be disrupted, because the Lord is going to bring great evil upon them. All hell is getting ready to break loose, man. Back in Ezekiel 7 and verse 6, it says, "An end is come, the end is come, it watcheth for thee, behold, it is come." Right, the end of your society is come, Esau. This is why everything in your society is failing. The job markets, the economy, The oh, your way of living. Look how many homeless people we got in your society. People starving to death. All kind of things are going on that show clear signs that this place is finished. Oh, let me grab this. Isaiah 24. I gotta get this. Isaiah 24 and verse 4. It says, the earth mourned and faded away. The world languished and faded away. And you can look at the state of the earth itself, man. Okay? The earth is in ICU. Critical care unit, man. All right? Or life support. I mean, because why? The wicked ruler, which is Esau Edom, he destroyed it, man. Oh, Revelation 11 and 18. Destroy them that destroy the earth. That's coming, man. And who destroys the earth? The Edomites. See? It's all adding up. Okay? Bear me 1 second. Shalaki, I'm back. But yeah, man, we're watching the haughty people, which haughty goes to being proud, all right, fall out of power, man. Now, let me grab something real quick. I'm going to look this word up, languish. Get a definition. All right, languish, it says, languish it. Let's get a meaning. Let's see here. Languish. It says languish means to grow weak, feeble, or sluggish, often due to neglect, confinement, or lack of progress. Now you look up languish in the Etamon, right? Let me see, we get it. The word languish popped up. It says language from the online etymology. It says fail in strength, exhibit signs of approaching death. And we're at the death of this Roman system. All right. This beast system. All right. Because it started in Greece, man. All right. It became even more prominent during the Roman Empire. Okay. Which we always say Greco-Roman era. And then when it was re-implemented in the earth again, through the Renaissance, look at what it become. This beast system have, destroyed life in many ways, man. Because the wicked is ruling, man. Everything is waxing worse and worse and basically dying off. All right, and that includes the people. But now he's approaching death as far as his rulership, man, his kingdom, and that's beautiful, man. Again, so it says the earth mourned and faded away, the world languished and faded away. The haughty people of the earth do languish, and the haughty people of the earth, or the proud people, because the word haughty goes to being proud, right? When you look it up, the word haughty is marawam from the Hebrew. You read down, it says height. Oh, who holds the height of the hill? That's Edom. That's what's that? I believe that's Obadiah. I think it's Obadiah. It goes into that. Let me see here. Yeah, it says Obadiah verse 1, the vision of Obadiah, thus said the Lord power concerning Edom. Yeah. And you read down in verse 3, the pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock. And keep in mind, it's concerning Edom, right? It says, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground, right? Because, Edom has a God complex where he thinks that he's never coming down. Okay. He's likening himself to a God, like he's a God. He's not anything but a man, just a mere mortal. But this is the mindset of the Edomites, So when they're in this, is finally come now. Now he want to slow down and try to have, negotiations with the Iranians as far as, Esau, by way of Nero Trump, which is a puppet voice they use to speak on behalf of their agenda, because the president of Babylon is just the president of the corporation, but who owns the corporation is the elites. All right, but let's continue on. Read a little more of the article. It says, what appeared only days ago, hold on, Slakia. Yeah. It says, what appeared only days ago to be an escalation ladder without a visible ceiling is now also becoming a negotiation space, however, deniable, fragmented, and politically fragile. Then that's because the Iranians did a deal with America. All right, as far as the JCPOA, if you're not familiar with it, I brought up a little bit. I'm gonna read just a little bit into it, show you something that was already on the table. This happened during the Obama administration. Okay, it says the JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, signed in 2015, is a diplomatic agreement between Iran and the P5+1 USA, UK, France, China, Russia, and Germany, aimed at limiting Iran's nuclear program in exchange for sanctions relief. See, it aimed to ensure a peaceful program, but the U.S. withdrew in 2018 as Iran has since exceeded many limitations. So they came in agreement and signed the deal, and they were abiding by the deal until what? The U.S. pulled away from this deal through Nero Trump. See? Because ultimately, they don't want peace. All right? They don't want peace. That's why they break every peace treaty, so to speak. Psalms 55:20. He had put forth his hands against such as he had put forth his hand against such as be at peace with him. He had broken his covenant, and this is a prime example. Okay? The Iranians came to the peace table, right? They signed the deal, and then guess what? The so-called white man, all right, Esau, Edom, he broke or disannulled the covenant or agreement they made between him and the Iranians. And now he wanted to negotiate again. And the Iranians like, no. Because why? They know that the so-called white man, Esau, is not one who keeps his promises or agreements. See? So ain't no peace coming. And you got to keep in mind, too. Well, I'm going to read on. Verse 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. And this is why they call him what? The great Satan. They know ultimately the so-called white man want to war with you. The Iranians, they know that if they cease to fire their missile strikes, that pretty much the U.S. will still come in and pretty much war with them. You see, they're on top of their biggest leaders in the past 3-4 years. Yeah, Soleimani. Then he recently assassinated Khamenei, the father, and other Iranian officials. See, it says his words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. You know, so that's the so-called white man. You know, he don't know how to bring peace because it ain't given to him to bring peace. It says that the great sword was given to him to take peace from the earth, man. All right, Revelation 6:4, it says, and there went out another horse that was red, which you know the word horse represents power, and who's red? Edom, all right, Esau. All right, the word Edom, it literally means red, okay? It says, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another, and there was given to him a great sword. Now, keep in mind, when you go to Genesis 27, whose blessing was the blessing of the sword? It was Esau, Edom. See? His blessing was, well, one of them was the sword. See, we have the fatness of the earth, the dew from heaven above, and by a sword shalt thou live. It says, by thy sword shalt thou live. He told, that was Isaac, we told to Esau. Okay? That's what he was blessed with. This is why he's able to go in these different lands and overthrow them. But see, the other nations have the great sword too, which is the missiles. Okay? And you look around, who's using the sword, you know, more than ever, or more than anyone on earth, it's the, you know, the Edomites, beginning with Amalek. Because America do business on behalf of the Amalekites. Amalek got these wars started in the so-called Middle East. We know who Amalek is. And it's not the so-called Arabs. Okay? Which descend from Esau. I mean, Slakia, I misspoke. You know, we know it's not the so-called Arabs that descend from Ishmael. You know? That's who the so-called Arabs go back to. Okay? But ultimately, we've seen the so-called white man drop bombs on different nations. Okay? And on each other. It says that they should kill one another. Okay? And we're seeing that going on. Okay? Through the different wars that they've had. So let's go from there. Let's see, let me go here. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 47. Matter of fact, Isaiah 47, you know, I should start at the top. Isaiah 47:1. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground, there is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. Right, and the daughter of Babylon is America. All right, and who's the modern day Chaldeans? It will be the Amalekites, which are the elites. All right, just like you had where the Chaldeans were the ones that was behind the scenes running the Neo-Babylonian Empire. And that's exactly, you know, the role of the Amalekites through the banking families. They're the ones behind, you know, closed doors running the shots or calling the shots. You know? Let's jump down here. We'll get to the point. Let's see here. Jump down to verse 5. Sit thou silent and get thee into darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called the lady of kingdoms. And you see that the nations are despising, you know, this place more and more, especially with, you know, Nero Trump, you know, you know, basically talking proudly against his allies, man. It's not a good look for them. And then you expect, your allies to come out and help you or aid you in this war against Iran, and they're not coming out to help you. Because why? Your own people, all right, that are across the pond, they even hate you. These NATO EU countries, they really hate you Americans, man. And you know it. Verse 6, I was wroth with my people, I have polluted my inheritance and given them into thine hand. Thou didst show them no mercy. Upon the ancient hast thou very heavily laid thy yoke. Right, and that's talking about us, man. All right, Jacob is the Lord's inheritance. And you didn't show us no mercy. From the ancient, the most ancient to the youngest. All right, it says, verse 7, and thou saidest, I shall be a lady forever, so that thou didst not lay these things to thy heart, neither didst remember the latter end of it, right? Because you think that you will reign forever. All right, Psalms 47:11. Therefore thought is that the house shall continue forever, from generation to generation, right? Roughly paraphrasing. But you see your end has come, It says, verse 8, it says, therefore hear now this, therefore hear now this, thou that art given to pleasures, that dwellest carelessly, that says in thine heart, I am and none else beside me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children. Right, because you get ready to experience, all right, all these things, man. All right. The main place the Lord is going to take out is Babylon the Great, which is so-called America. Because at the end of this war, which World War III will happen, is going to happen, wherein you will have the destruction of Babylon the Great. Okay? And also the land of Canaan will be cleansed by fire. Okay? To rid the wicked out of the earth, man. Okay? And that starts with, destroying your kingdom first. And put you under us, us Israelites, the true Israelites, so-called Negro, Latino, Native Americans. All right, from Judah down to Issachar, we're going to rule over you. All right, your next life will be that we're going to rule over you for 1,000 years and then exterminate you. So your kingdom being destroyed is just the start of your punishment. It says, verse 9, but these two things shall come to thee in a moment and one day, the loss of children and widowhood, they shall come upon thee in their perfection, for the multitude of thy sorceries and for the great abundance of thine enchantments. And we see that you've been doing a lot of that behind closed doors, especially with the exposing of these Epstein files. The child sacrifice and different things like that. The Lord exposed this place, man. That's why it's such a shameful spewing upon your glory, man. Verse 10, it says, for thou hast trusted in thy wickedness, right? You even boast in it. Thou hast said, none sent me. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge, it hath perverted thee. And thou hast said in thy heart, I am, and none else beside me. Therefore, and that's true. That's the way of, these Edomites thinking process. It says, verse 11, therefore shall evil come upon thee, thou shalt not know from whence it riseth, and mischief shall fall upon thee. Thou shalt not be able to put it off, and desolation shall come upon thee suddenly, which thou shalt not know. Right, because what's going to cause the greatest evil in this land of, you call America, excuse me, the land you call America, is that when this dollar crash and all hell break loose, you can't purchase any goods, you're going to be out here, basically perishing for lack of food, as the scriptures say. You're going to see a lot of evil overtake this place, man. Because it's going to come upon you suddenly. Okay? From the race wars, to societal breakdown, where you're going to have even people going against the government. Like it says in 2 Esdras 15, they should not regard princes nor kings or governors. So we're getting ready to see great evil come upon this place. And when it happens, ain't no putting it off. Ain't no peace coming to the wicked, man. All right, only evil and great evil. All right, the prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and great kingdoms of war, evil, and of pestilence. Jeremiah 28:8. And that's what we're getting ready to see, man. Great evil, man. Overtake Babylon the Great. And the collapse of this dollar is going to be the beginning of it, because things are inflating right now, showing you that it's getting ready to bust. All right, the bubble is getting ready to burst on this U.S. dollar. So, hey, man, I look forward to seeing our enemies fall, man. Okay, but hey, with that, I'm gonna end it there. Lord, when you've been edified, I want to give all honor, glory, and praises again to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Ruach HaKodesh. Again, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. Shalom to you laborers out there doing the work in truth and sincerity. Again, shalom to the Frog Waf that believe as well. Hey, shalom to the whole elect in the nation of Israel, which is the household of faith, man. Shalom in the Bible ball.